Hey everyone, and welcome to Isms by Josie. Today I'm going to be doing an itty bitty knit kit that I got from Five Below. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in, and for my new viewers, please consider subscribing, share, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and click on that notification bell for future videos. So today, you guys, I have a viewer request to do Coney. So I'm going to do Coney today. This is giving me some Boba Buddy vibes. If you don't remember that video, check out the videos that I have made for Five Below. I had a hard time with the dome, and it looks like there's obviously an ice cream dome here. So hopefully I'll be able to pull this one off better than I did with the Boba Buddy. But let's get started to unboxing this kit. If you flip it on the other side, it shows you exactly what's inside this kit. We've got some stuffing, a needle, a plastic needle, some yarn. We have our two plastic knitting needles, and then I'm guessing these are felt stickers to decorate with. Alright, so in case you didn't know, the company that makes this is called Bright Stripes. You can go on their website. I believe it's brightstripes.co. Not .com, but .co. So you can find out different crafts there. It's not just limited to knit kits. But these ones I've found in Five Below. I noticed that there's a difference between the Five Below knit kits and their kits on their website. So if you were looking to finding something different, I would go check out their website. Alright, so let's get into this. We've got our spools of yarn here. We've got our little plastic bag, or paper bag, wow, which contains your crochet. Do I know what video I'm on right now? Do I know what channel I'm on? Okay, we're doing knitting needles here. Let's remove the stuffing out and get out the felt stickers. This is what we're going to be using last. This one's a little bit messier than the other. They just wad some stuffing in here, and it's getting all over the place now, but it's really important to preserve as much of the materials, because you never know if it's going to be enough. So hopefully it will be. Alright, I emptied out everything in the paper bag. I'm going to put this back in here so that the fluff doesn't end up getting like anything, you know, crazy in there. I'm going to set these aside. And then we have our instructions here. So this video now is going to be a supplement to the instructions. If you want to make this cone, I highly suggest that you go and get the kit at Five Below. You have to get them when they have them, because they run out super fast. So I have viewer requests asking me to do so many of these kits that I don't have and I can't find. So in saying that, if you have a request, please leave a comment below. If you don't want to wait for me to find it, I highly suggest taking clear images and sending them to my email. So all that information is in my about section. Okay, so for this booklet, I am going to be going over new stitches at least 3 times. And then I'm going to go my normal pace. I will be going over and explaining what they're asking you to do. So hopefully I can help clarify how to make this cone at home. Alright, so let's see here. We have to make 2 rectangles. One of them is the cone color and the other one is the ice cream color. So this is going to be pretty quick, I can imagine. The construction of the squares or rectangles is probably what's going to get us, because I did not fare so well with the Boba Buddy. So let's get straight into this. A little bit excited because I really love these knit kits as much as I love crochet. I equally, if not more, love to knit. Alright, so for the first rectangle, you want to get out your cone color and they usually have it wound up like this, which is not ideal. You can always buy your own spool of yarn, any color, any type of yarn, and to your liking, because there's plushy yarn out there. Plush yarn is so amazing. There's faux fur yarn that I love too. Any kind of weird textured material I really like to use. So, but for this, you could also get cotton if you want it to be durable. This, I can imagine, is either made out of polyester or acrylic. It'll probably tell you. Yeah, so in the back it says acrylic yarn and acrylic yarn. So some people don't actually like to work with acrylic. But anyway, so we're just gonna have to fare through the tangle. That's why I don't like these. But anyway, all right, so we're gonna need a 20-inch tail, and the best part of this book is that it comes with a ruler. So all you gotta do is line this up, and it goes up to 5 inches. You just measure it: 5, 10, 15, and 20. So hold it at the 20 mark. Now, if you need to speed up or slow down the video, there's a gear button in the corner. Click on that. There's playback options to go fast or slow. If you don't need to hear me talk, you could always lower the volume on your device, and then you can click on the CC closed caption button. Alright, so let's start with this. Okay, so here's my 20-inch tail. You don't want to confuse it with the feeder yarn that's attached to the spool. So this yarn here is called feeder yarn. Set that aside. This side here that has the end of this is called the tail. So pinch it, keep pinching at the 20. I'm going to just switch hands so I can work with my right hand. Alright, if you need a lefty video, comment below. I'll add it to my list, and then I'll try to do a lefty video for you, but it's pretty much the same. You just use the opposite hand. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start a little slip knot to put onto our knitting needle. And the way that I do this is, okay, so keep this pinched. I normally don't do it this way, but since you want to keep that 20-inch tail and not lose that, pinch it here with your thumb and index finger. Then with your middle finger and ring finger, you just want to hold your yarn like this. So you want a bit of length here. You can go a little bit farther if you want. And we're just going to hold this. You want to make sure that this pinch here is tight. You don't want to let go of this, because this is marking your 20-inch tail. This side, you can leave it loose, so you can slip your yarn easily like this, right? So now you're going to take your 2 fingers from your right hand, and I'm just going to come up with the 2 fingers. So go up, and you want to twist it downward. So twist it downward like this. You want to make sure you keep that, you can use bend your middle finger to hold the yarn while you bend and twist the yarn. So you want to do this kind of an action, right? So now what we're going to do is you're going to grab the yarn with your middle finger and index, and you're going to chomp down on it or clamp down, and we're going to pull it through that loop we made. So you see what I did there? Now what we're going to do, you're going to pull this loop out and push this little fold towards your left thumb. So you want to just keep pulling, and if the loop gets too big, you can always pull this out to make that loop not so big, but just keep pulling your yarn here and making that little knot tighter and closer to your thumb like this. Okay, once you hit a point where that knot can no longer move, then you're technically good to go. But this loop here is humongous. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna hold the knot now. So with this thumb and this index, hold that knot. You can let go now because we put this knot just about the 20-inch mark. So just hold the knot with this hand here. We're going to pull the feeder. Be careful not to pull the tail because we want to keep the 20-inch. You want to pull the feeder yarn a little out till you get a decent size loop here. You want to be able to fit your knitting needle. So yeah, this is a little big, but let me see. Yeah, pull it a little more. It's okay if it's a little big because you want to gauge. You want to make sure you can fit the needle into that loop, right? So I still got my knot intact. Now keep holding that knot because you don't want it to loosen. You want to make sure you're just pulling it from the feeder yarn. So now you can kind of pull it a little bit more. You have to fit 2 needles in there eventually, so something like this is pretty good. Maybe a little too good. Yeah. Okay. Now that we have this situated here, you want to always leave your tail end, the 20-incher, you want to leave it out of the way. So I'm going to put this over my desk down here. So you don't want to use this, you want to use this one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the yarn here, and I just kind of roll it like this. You're going to take this needle now and you're going to slip it into that same loop like this. So now you have your 2 needles in the loop. So whenever you're in your knitting stance, you keep 1 needle per hand, and you always want to cross it into an X, and you want your right hand needle to be behind, and you want your left needle to be in front. And this is going to be the knit position. This is when you do knit stitches. Doing a different kind of stitch like the purl is different, but since we're doing knit stitches for this kit, this is the stance that you would keep. Okay, and if you wanted to stabilize this, because this is just flapping in the wind when you're holding it, you can always use your ring and pinky to hold it down. So now that we're here, whenever you do a knit stitch, you always go from the back to the forward, back to forward with your yarn, and this goes around the right needle. Okay, so knit stitches always require a back to forward yarn action here. And what you're going to do is you're going to just bring it down. See how I do it there? So let's see a different view, top view. We're going to go back to forward, and you're going to pull it down between these 2 needles. Now, what we want to do is take this loop and pull it over this needle. So let's do that now. You always want to keep your needles touching, because if it's loose, this can come out. So once you put your yarn down in between your needles like this, keep your needles touching. We're going to glide the left needle over the right needle, and this will allow this loop to go over the right needle. So let's do that now. You can hold down your feeder yarn with your thumb and index, but we're going to glide the left needle over the right needle, and we're going to go over the needle point. Okay, again, try to keep touching every moment. I'm keeping in contact with my needle. But as I'm doing this, you can see that this feeder yarn is now through the loop like this. All right, I'm going to show you this again. So maybe a little bit faster will help you. Stick your needle into the loop. You want to make an X, right needle behind the left needle. We're going to take our yarn here. We're always going to do back to forward with a knit stitch. So back to forward, and then bring it down between the needles. And then we're going to slide this left needle over the right one. So keep in contact, keep on contact, always keep touching the needles together. And then we're just going to push that loop over the right needle, and that forces that feeder yarn through the loop. Okay, and then I'm just going to do this one more time, but faster, maybe faster, even more faster, quicker, I don't know, will help. Again, stick your needle through the loop, make an X with your yarn, feeder yarn, go back to forward and down between the needles. Keep your needles touching. We're going to slide the left over the right, keeping the touching of two needles, and it's going to force that feeder yarn through the loop. And so now we have this weird situation here. So you guys, once you're here, we just have to put this loop on this needle. So you just need to creep up to the left needle, take that loop, and take it off the right needle. Okay? So I'm going to rewind back one step. Right. So after you make that loop, you just put this loop over the left needle and remove it off the right needle. And you can tighten this up a little bit if you want. But now we have two loops on here. Okay? So let's do this again. Stick your needle into the new loop that's on this left needle. Make your X. Grab your feeder yarn, back to forward. Slide it down in between the needles. Okay, then we're going to slide this left needle over the right, keeping it touching, forcing that feeder yarn to go through the loop. Okay, so now we're in this situation here. We're just going to put this loop over the left needle, just like that. And then you can tighten it up. So now we have 3 stitches or loops, whatever you want to call it. It's on here. Let's do this again. One more time. So stick your needle into that loop. Make an X. Go back to forward. Bring down between your needles. Keep your needles touching. We're going to slide the left over the right, forcing that feeder yarn to go through the loop. Okay, then we're going to put this new loop over the left needle and remove it off the right needle. So now we have 4. Alright, so now what we're going to do here, I'm just going to continue with the stitches. Okay, so all of you watching the video, just complete the rest. So right now we have 4. I'm going to keep going. Alright. And if you want to just practice, you don't have to stop where you don't have to stop with the number of stitches. If you want to be a little enthusiastic about it, you can keep making as many until you're comfortable. Stuck? Got stuck here. You can keep making as many to get comfortable with doing these casting of stitches onto your needle. So this is called casting of stitches onto your needle. And there are other ways to do this, but I find this way to be the neatest way. But, you know, it's all preference. Okay, I actually have not been counting, so... Alright, so once you get your stitches on here, you should have something that looks like this. Okay, and because I've done this knitting thing for quite some time, my stitches are a little bit more uniform. If you're just starting out, I mean, it's okay. Look here, I kind of went a little different, so there's a bigger gap here. You might have the same thing. Some loops here might be too loose, but that's okay. Over time you can get better at it, and then you'll be able to be more uniform with your stitching. So we're going to continue the knit stitch until the square is about 4 inches. So it says that we can do an X number of rows, but more importantly, you want to make sure you use your ruler that they provided you and make sure it measures out 4 inches, because everybody's stitches is different. I have tighter stitches, so it might take more rows to make 4 inches. Your stitches might be looser, so you might take less rows. So they kind of give you an average, so about X amount of rows makes 4 inches. So just focus on the 4-inch part. All right. So to do the next row, because we finished one, well, a half. So it actually takes 2 runs to make a row. I mean, if you really want to see it that way, but I'll explain that. All right, so I'm going to gather up some yarn here. What we're going to do this second passing, let's call it passing. This was the first pass. This is going to be the second pass. 2 passes equal a row. All right, so you want to stick your needle into the last stitch that you made. So just fit that in there like that. If your stitches are a bit loose like this, you should have no problem sticking the needle into the stitches. If you're finding difficulty, it means you're making your tension really tight, and you just need to relax a little bit. It'll make you feel better too after like sitting for a while and doing this. Alright, so we stuck our needle back into the last stitch we made. We're in our X position. What we're going to do now is the same thing we've been doing before. We're going to go back to forward and down between the needles. Now what we're going to do is the same, almost the same. So we're going to slide this needle over the right needle, okay, forcing the feeder yarn through that loop, but instead of casting this new loop onto the left needle, we're going to remove the left needle off of this loop that we just used. So, you know, the right needle gains a loop, the left needle loses a loop. So the idea is the number of loops on your left needle should be the same number when we transfer them to the right needle. Okay, so let me show you that again. Put your needle into the next loop. Okay, go into your X position. We're going to do a back to forward and pull down. Keep your needles touching. We're going to slide the left over the right, forcing the feeder yarn to go through that loop. So instead of putting this on the left needle, we're going to remove this loop that we used off the left needle. So you can just pull that off. So now we have 2 loops on our right and then all the rest on our left. And the idea is to transfer the same number of loops on the left to the right needle. So let's do this again. Stick your needle into the loop, make your X. We're going to go back to forward and pull down. Then we're going to slide the left needle over the right. And then we're going to slip that left loop we used here off the left needle. So now we have 3 on this side. Alright, so now you guys, you just complete doing this. Why is my English just not behaving today? We're just going to complete this until all of the loops on the left needle are on the right needle. Okay. And my style of knitting, you see how I'm like using my, this is not the best way you can to put your finger on the tip of the needle, because over time it'll hurt. I've done scarves like this, straight knit stitches, and I have metal needles. They're not sharp, they're just the same like this except metal. Over time I would get a little like sore, but this is just how I do it sometimes. You want to just ideally do it without touching the tip of the needle, but see, like my finger wants to do that. I've trained myself to pick up a bad habit, so I'm trying not to have you guys do the same thing. Alright, so we did the last loop, and like I said, we just basically transferred the same number of needles on the left onto the right needle. Now we did 1 pass and a second pass, so this would be equal to a row, and you won't be able to tell here because the beginning is always messy. But we're going to do 2 more passes and I'm going to show you what an actual row looks like. You'll see this looks messy, but that's okay because my 2 passings always look like that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is, you always want stitches to be on your left so that you can continue. How you do that? That's simple. You just flip. So you're holding your right needle like this. You can put down your left needle. You just have to flip this way, and you have your stitches to your left now. So what you want to make sure to do, your feeder yarn, it wants to do one of these things. You want to make sure that you make everything like kind of not spirally like this, you know. You want to make sure that your project is all the same facing down. So, because if you accidentally do this, you're gonna think that this is 2 loops, because I've done that when I started out. You want to make sure that when you flip it, everything is the same level, and then you're gonna see your feeder yarn wants to fall down with your tail yarn, and that's what you want. So let's grab the other needle, which is now your right needle, and we're going to do the same transferring of loops like we did before. So stick your needle into the first loop, make your X. I'm going to load up my finger here with some yarn, and we're going to do the same thing we did for the last passing. Just back to forward, down between the needles. Oop, I'm going to try not to do this. This is a no-no. Slide your left needle over your right, forcing that feeder yarn through the loop, and then we're going to slip this loop off the left needle. Okay, so keep doing that again till all the loops are transferred over to your right needle. And my index finger on my left hand still wants to touch the it's crazy. I'm even trying harder not to do it, and it's just automatically doing it. Okay, so we're starting a new row, so this is one passing. We're going to flip it. You're going to stick your needle back into the first loop here, make your X, and then I'm going to gather up some yarn again around my finger, and we're going to start this new passing. Right, and then I'm going to show you what the row looks like. Hopefully it's not too messy, so I can show you what it'll look like. Okay, so I finished the fourth passing. I'm going to make sure I flipped it. I'm going to make sure that this whole thing is all nice and even. Now, what a row looks like is this wavy up and down thing. See that? Now, because you're starting out, this might look wonky. Like here, I made it a little different. This is looser, so it's not consistent, but it should look like a little wave. Okay, so that's kind of like a row. You can kind of see it on this side that we did, but because this is the beginning, it's all like loose and stuff. But yeah, so when they say the number of rows, you're counting that wavy thing. Because if we did 16 passings, that's not going to make 4 inches. So they're talking about rows, and that's 2 passings. I don't think I've ever explained that in my other videos. But I do stress to make sure it's 4 inches. So that kind of, you know, protects I guess my explanation of how long this thing is supposed to be. And the company too. They can say the number of rows all day, but they also say 4 inches, so they're protecting themselves as well. Because it sucks when you get a set of instructions and it's not the same. Like, it doesn't look the same. it's not the same size. Yeah, because everyone's stitches is different. Okay. Now we're just going to complete this again. I think we're at a point where you guys can just rewind to get the step-by-step for the stitches, step-by-step for how to do the rows. So feel free to do that now if you need a little bit more help. But I'm just gonna go about and do this until I get 4 inches. Sometimes I'll count the rows, but I usually just gauge with my eyes how long a project should be. Oh, and then I went back to my bad habit of putting my finger on the needle. I don't like that there's a piece sticking out. I want to file that down. I'm going to file this down real quick. I just filed that little nubby down because it's pulling on my thread. Okay. Alright, I'm going to try not to touch the needle. Which means I'm going to go slower. Which will probably benefit you more, but you can always change the playback to a slower speed using the gear button, or you can just rewind to the step-by-step. But yeah, I used to make scarves as gifts or scarves to sell when I was in college. So I would be sitting there watching movies. Sometimes I would be there in class and I would be knitting because I didn't have to look at what I was doing, and I would just, because I had to get them done, so I definitely had my practice time. But this knit stitch is one of the basic stitches of knitting. This one stitch alone, you can make so many things with this. Today we're going to make a cone. Tomorrow you can make a scarf. The next day you can make, what are those things? A pot holder. And the day after that you can make a blanket. But you would really need bigger needles and bigger yarn, which I have actually. So this one stitch alone, you can end up doing so much, and you can switch out colors. It's always a fun little hobby. Almost did it. I gotta get more yarn, but I might as well show you what it looks like now. So you can kind of see the wavy pattern for the rose. And I got about, what, like 4 on there? Right, this is my tangled mess. Let me deal with this and I'll be right back. Okay. When your project gets a little long enough, you don't need to worry about the tail end anymore, since it's, you know, you can't confuse it with the feeder yarn. So you can just move it out of your way if it's in your way. Let me be right back. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna just see how much I have. This might be 4 inches. So I would say that we are. So I want to show you how we cast off. Alright, so you're going to take your project here. We're going to do 2 knit stitches like we've done this whole entire time. So stick your needle into the first loop here, make your X, back to forward and down, and then we're going to slide the left needle over the right needle, and then slip off that loop off the left needle, and we're going to do it again. Next stitch here, back to forward and down, slide the left over the right, and then remove the loop off the left needle. Now what we're going to do here, we have 2 loops. You want to pick up this first one we did, and we're going to hop it over this one, but we're going to hop it over and off the right needle. So make sure you keep this loop here on the needle. In this first loop, we're going to lift over and off the needle. Okay, so like that. So we still have that loop on there. Now this first loop, we draped it over the needle and off the left needle. So now you have 1 stitch on the right needle. So now from here, we're going to do another knit stitch. So go to the next loop, stick your needle in, create your X. We're going to go back to forward and down. We're going to slide our left over our right, and then slip the left loop off the left needle. And so now we're back to 2 loops on our right needle. Again, you want to keep this loop on the right needle, and you want to lift this loop off the right needle. So pick it up with your left needle here, and we're going to pull it over the right needle. You have to keep that loop on the right needle here. Alright, so now we're back to 1 loop. So you always want to have 2 loops in order to get this cast off done till we reach the end of our stitches on the left needle. So let's do this again. Do your knit stitch. Okay. We're back to 2 loops. We're going to lift this one over and off the right needle, keeping this loop on the right needle, and repeat. So just keep doing this till you have no more loops, or at least 1 more loop left, and I'll show you how to cast off that one. We're going to keep doing this. Okay, last loop off the left needle, and then pull this over. Now what we're going to do here, we have this leftover feeder yarn. We're going to put this over the needle like this. Alright, so in case you're wondering, here's the feeder yarn. I'm putting it over the right needle. I'm going to hold it with my index and middle finger so that's stabilized. Now I'm going to take my left needle and I'm going to lift this loop over and off the right needle, So pick it up with your left, lift it up over and off the right needle, and you still have this loop on here. This is the end of, this is the last stitch we got to do, so we're going to pull this all the way out. All the way. Okay? When you have it all the way out, then you just pull on this to tighten it up a little bit, and then you can cut this off. You can, we'll try to hide this when we sew our project. Alright. So this is actually how much I have left. And I did fairly tight stitching. Comment below, let me know if you had enough yarn to complete this square. So this is what it looks like. Let's see how many rows I ended up doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I actually had 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I actually ended up getting 16. Let me know if you ended up doing 16, but this measures 4 inches. We're going to set this aside because now we're going to do the ice cream portion. Okay, so we have this yarn here, and it happens to have the end sticking out, right? Sometimes this is the right end, sometimes it's the wrong end, but we'll know if we pull it and it keeps pulling with no problem. There. So this is the end that we want, because this will keep your spool from rolling. So this is actually the other end. If we keep pulling it from here, well, first of all, we have to remove this. It's going to be in the way. But since we were able to have it from the inside, this is going to be easier and cleaner to feed. So let us get back to doing this square, and we have to have again a 20-inch tail. So I'm going to pull out the ruler, and we're going to measure out 20 inches. Okay, so I'm pinching it at the 20-inch mark. Alright, I'm going to take my middle and ring finger and hold it apart. I'm going to make sure that the tail end is nice and tight, and then the feeder end is going to be loose so I can pull it. Okay, so now I'm going to be taking my 2 fingers here. I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to kind of close my middle finger here, because I'm going to twist it like this to create this loop. Then I'm going to take my index and my ring finger, and I'm just going to grab this feeder yarn and pull it through that loop. Right? So now we have this very loose knot. What you want to do is we're going to pull the knot closed and towards your left thumb. So just keep pulling like this until that knot gets nice and somewhat tight. Alright, so now you can let go of your left hand. We marked our 20-inch mark with the knot. I'm going to grasp the knot with my right hand, thumb and index, and make sure you pull the right end. This is the tail end. I'm going to drape this over my desk to make sure I don't accidentally use this. This one here is the feeder yarn, and I'm going to pull this out and watch this loop get smaller, and you want to pull it just small enough to fit 2 needles. Okay, like that. And we're going to slip 1 needle through the loop. You can continue to tighten the feeder end like that. And then we have our other needle. You can slip that through here. Now, you can continue the way that I'm doing it, like this. There is another way to cast on, but I do not prefer it. If you're really getting tripped up and you can't handle the X position here, to cast on, we can do it with our fingers. It's just, you're gonna find out why I don't like it. It's just weird, and I don't know, like, if I'm just doing it the wrong way. But, so, we're gonna take this here, and we're just going to, here's my feeder yarn. I'm gonna take my thumb, put it just under the yarn here. All right, so what we want to do is we want to twist it. So here is the tail yarn, here's the feeder yarn. Stick your thumb right under the feeder yarn, take your index, and you just want to twist a loop. So you see how I made a loop? Just crossed it like that. I want to take this loop and just throw it up on the needle. So here's one. Again, take your thumb and then take your index and ring finger and middle finger if you want, and you can create your loop and throw it up on the needle and pull. So you'll have your, we have 3. Again, thumb underneath, index and middle finger, create a loop by twisting, and then throw it up on the needle and tighten. Okay, thumb under the yarn, index and middle finger, twist and make a loop and throw it up on the needle and tighten. Okay, so I'm just going to do this the number of times it says in the instructions. So again, you can speed up or slow down the video. I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the number of stitches that I need. All right, so now we have our row of stitches. I'm going to get some yarn here. And this is going to end up measuring 5 inches. So it does say 20 rows, so maybe 20 rows will make your 5 inches. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing that we did with the other square. Stick your hook into the first loop here. We're going to go back and forward and down, and then slip the left over the right, forcing the feeder yarn to pull through the loop, and then we're going to remove that loop off the left needle. So when you do it this way with your hand, you see you have a larger gap here. I just don't like that. Eventually it'll drown out and it'll look like the other square, but for now it looks like too loose, and I don't prefer it. So you can either do it with 2 needles casting on, or you can use your fingers, whatever's easier for you. But I highly suggest eventually doing 2 needles. It's just technical, I guess, and more traditional. All right, so we're going to go into the next loop, and we're going to go back to forward and down, left needle over the right needle, and then the loop off the left needle. See, doesn't it bother you? I don't know, it bothers me. So I'm going to show this one more time like we did, and then I'm just going to zoom past this so I don't have to see that. Back to forward and down, left needle over right needle, forcing the feeder yarn through the loop, then remove that loop off the left needle. Alright, so let's complete this with the rest of the loops, and then we're going to move on to the next rows. Okay, so you will have this little extra, but once we do more rows, it'll kind of wash, like I said, wash out a little bit. But yeah, we're going to continue doing this. I did my flip. You go back to doing the same thing that we did, right? 1, 2, 3. We're going to continue the rest of the way and keep doing this knitting thing again. Once you get the hang of it, it's super easy. It's just a matter of practicing how much faster you can be just doing one stitch. So that's the fun part. But I'm a little dorky, so I find that fun. Hopefully you do too. Alright, so let me just measure out this, and it seems like it's about 5 inches already. So now I'm going to cast off again, and I will show you this one more time. So we're going to do 2 knit stitches, right? And then you're going to have 2 stitches on your right needle. We're going to lift this first loop over the second and off the right needle. So pick up the first loop. Okay, we're going to lift it over the second loop and off the right needle, like that. Then we're going to go knit another stitch. So we have 2 loops back onto our right needle. Again, lift up this loop, pull it over the second loop, and then off the right needle and off the left needle. Do another knit stitch. You have 2 loops on your right needle. We're going to pick up this loop. We're going to lift it over the second loop and off the right needle and off the left needle. Right? So you're going to complete that all the way down. Until you have 1 loop left on your right needle. Wow, I can't manage to not touch the point of the needle. That habit is in deep. Okay, now once you get down to your last loop, this is how much pink I have left. So since I can't just pull it out easy, I'm just going to cut about 1 inch or so. Right, we're going to yarn over the needle like this. So here it is chilling in the back. We're going to pull it over in the front. I'm going to hold it with my middle and ring finger, and I'm going to lift this loop over the second one and off the right needle, off the left needle. You can set this down. We're going to pull this all the way out. You can set this down. We're going to pull this so that loop tightens up, and then we're going to end up fixing it when we start sewing. So this is how much pink I have left. Not too bad. Let's continue on with the construction of our project here. So once we have our 2 pieces complete, it says position the tan square like a diamond and bring the 2 side corners together. So I think we're going to start sewing it from the bottom that it looks like it's doing. So I'm going to put my diamond this way. And then we're supposed to bring the 2 side corners together. So these 2 corners, we're just going to pull them together like this. Like a little kite, I guess. Okay. Then it says thread the yarn needle with the length of the tan yarn. And we're going to stitch closed alongside to form a cone. So slip this through the eyelet hole of the needle, and we're going to start sewing this together. I'm not a good sewer, so I don't know any good tips and tricks, but you want to line it up and sew it together that way. So hopefully I'll be able to do this Yeah, we're just gonna keep these lined up. Alright, so now we're on, I'm going to tuck this. I don't know actually if we need to tuck it because the next instruction says we have to flip inside out. So I sewn this up. It says turn the cone inside out so the more attractive side of the seam is on the outside. Okay, so we're just going to flip this inside out and push that end piece. Alright, and flip this that way. That looks like a cornucopia. Cornucopia? Those little Thanksgiving things. Anyways. Alright, you can tuck in the bottom point of the cone to be shorter if you like a chubbier looking cone. So you can tuck this in more if you want a cone like this. I like the pointy ones. I'm used to the drumsticks. I think it's called drumsticks. It's the ice cream cone that's in the grocery store. Anyway, alright. So now we're going to take the pink rectangle and fold it in half. Alright, so let me just look ahead real quick and see if we have what we're doing with this piece. Maybe we're done sewing. I just want to double check. Alright, so it does look like we're kind of done with the tan. So what I'm going to do here, we have this piece. I'm just going to tie it twice together. Not super tight, but tight enough that it's hiding here. And then I'm going to cut this, or you can leave it. Yeah, I'll add it as stuffing because I think the stuffing is going to end up going in this cavity. Alright, so this is our first piece. Now we're going to grab our pink, and it says take the pink rectangle and fold it in half along the long side like this, and we're going to stitch the two sides closed with the tail of the yarn. So we'll take our yarn here and we're gonna slip this on there. Now again, I'm not a good sewer, but we're just gonna line this stuff up. Oh, I'm curious, let me see if I have 20 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I have 21 rows. But anyway, we're folding it in half. We're gonna just line it up, I guess, and do our best to sew one side together. Okay, and then once I get to this side, we have to sew the other side, but I'm just going to try to slip this in here. Now what you want to do is you want to leave a good amount of space. So when you pull this across, don't pull it tightly. You want to leave some room, some slack. So then I'm going to close this in half. I'm going to start here and sew this together. And don't pull too tight because we put the slack in there for when we start filling in the cone with stuffing. And then we're just going to continue sewing this all the way down. Okay, and once we finish that off, so you have this little pocket, we have that nice slack so that there's no bending or pulling once we fill this in with stuffing. Let's see what the instructions say next. All right. So it says, look at the pink piece and make sure the most attractive seams are on the outside of our piece. So I guess we get to choose. We have this side, or if we flip it inside out, we have this side. The problem is we have this here because we chose to continue the whole yarn and not cut it. That's why it says, or you can choose a new strand to sew, but the way that we sewed this here looks pretty okay. You know, flipped through this side, it looks a little bit more seamless, but it's really not that bad. So I'm going to keep this side here. So we looked at it and we're going to choose this side. We're going to put stuffing into the cone and place the pink on top. So I'm going to grab my little pouch with the stuffing and we're going to put this into the cone. So you want to make sure you get into the end there. Right, and just make sure that you fill this in. You can always squeeze it back out when we put the top on, so don't worry about that, because I don't know, I would take some, fill the cone, take some, fill this, but it just says fill the cone and then put the pink cap on top. We're gonna tuck the top corner of the cone down and stitch around the pink cap onto the top of the cone along the third row of knitting. This will create a lip around the pink cap. Alright, so what they have us doing, they want you to fold in this corner and we're just going to sew around. So hopefully this is enough actually, but let's start with here, I guess. Let's see, I'm going to grab this one here. Okay. So it says to use the third row. So this is the, oh, I guess I should have done that. Okay, hold on. Let me take this back out. This is how I'm going to do the third row. Oy. Alright, I'll fix that. Alright, just count your rows. Here's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pop this up at the third row, like that. then we're going to go back in. We're going to follow the third row line. Alright, so this is going to go in here. And then through here. And we're going to sew this in place. So the cap is going to go just over it like this. And so here we are. We want to grab the edge of the cone, try to avoid the fiber fill, and then come up at the third row of our ice cream. See, 1, 2, 3. And we're just going to do this all the way around. So. And try to line it up as best you can. So I'm just slipping this over the cone, and then I'm going to be just going in and out of the cone and the cap. Hopefully I have enough to go all the way around. Oops. Oh, geez. Okay, we're nearing the other side. Just going to continue going all the way around. And then I'll show you how I'm going to tie a knot. If you have a better way, then use that way. But I just I just try to do whatever. Alright, so we're on the other side. It's looking a little sad right now, but I'm gonna tie a knot around this cone. So you go around a stitch, and then we're just gonna go into this loop a couple times, and we're gonna pull. Alright, then we're gonna tuck this piece into the project, and to do that I'm just gonna re-put the thread onto the needle. We're gonna go back into a hole close to where this piece is, and I'm just gonna go in one end, and I'm just gonna go out another end, a random end. I'm not gonna really think about it much. But see, now we pull this out. You can either pull to tuck that piece in. If it's too long, you can cut it, and then you can just hide it in your project. Now you can take this opportunity to push some of that stuffing into the ice cream cap. Okay, and this is where I feel that the amount of stuffing they give you is not sufficient. This is a very plush, like a squishy cone. I like to have my projects a lot firmer. Plus, if you had more stuffing, this will fill out. You know, you could always sew it, but if you put enough stuffing, this could fill out and remove those little points. So I'm going to try to just fiddle around with the stuffing and push that into the ice cream portion, so that I can fill out the cap and it could be a little bit more rounded. But yeah, I think that's my only comment about this project in particular. Alright, so that's that. I just want to make sure the cone. Alright. Okay, so here's our cone. Now, we have to stick on the eyes, the mouth, and sprinkle stickers. So here we have our eyes. I want to pick a nice side. So what I'm going to do, actually, I want to put sprinkles and stick them at the corners so we can flatten these edges and it'll look more round. So this is going to be my face. If you really want these to stay on there, if they're going to go through any play with children, you can sew them on using embroidery floss or a thread to make sure they stay on here. But I don't have any of that, so we're just going to stick these on here. Alright, so I removed one eye. We're going to place this here, and you can tilt your eyes any way you want it to, and you can just hold this down for 10 seconds. I mean, I'm just picking a number, to be honest, but you want to make sure that every bit of that stick on this sticker is touching the yarn so that it could stay on there. Alright, so we got one eye. We're going to put the other one on. Okay. I want to try to make it as even as possible. Okay. Push that down. Then we're going to take the mouth that's on here and we are going to slip this right up in between the eyes. Okay, Now, we're going to take the sprinkles and I'm just going to randomize the sprinkles all around the cone. But like I said, I'm going to use this stick. I'm going to try to squish this corner and use the sprinkle to hold it down. So make sure that corner is stuck to the sprinkle, and then hopefully, so we kind of just smushed it. So you see the difference. This is round, this is pointy. Then I'm going to take another sticker. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. You want to flatten that corner and make sure that the sprinkle is lying right across it. You can pinch it closed. So now we have two flat. It's now looking more like a cone. Alright, so now again we're going to randomize these colors of sprinkles. And you can hold it on there more firmly than I did. I'm just breezing through this right now. And I'm going to cheat a little bit because on the back you can see that the corners are still kind of popping out. I'm going to grab one part of this corner and I'm going to just push it closed further down on the cone. Okay, so now it's flat on this side. This side is sticking out. I'm going to take another sprinkle here. And then we're going to pull one of that corner down. Okay, so now we've made it round on both sides. And I'm just going to continue sticking sprinkles on here. And last one. Alright, so here is my cone. It looks a lot better than the Boba Buddy. But anyway, comment below, let me know how it turned out. So we have our cone here, and this is what it's supposed to look like. Close enough, I guess. Still cute. Well, there you have it. So you guys, I am going to be putting a halt on my list of videos I'm putting out because I need to fit in this booklet of snacks. I'm going to be making it for my goddaughter's birthday, and I have a month, less than a month now to get it done. So I will be throwing in just one more itty bitty kit per request, and then I'm going to just move forward with the projects that I need to put out. I will return back to my list, no worries. Maybe by then I'll find some of the other requests that I received. But again, if you don't want to wait for me to find any of the items that I tell you I don't have, please go ahead and take clear photos of the instructions and email them to me. My info is in my About section. Let me know what you think of this. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Click on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. So this is Miss Coney. Hi. Welcome. Alright. So thank you so much, you guys, for watching. This is Isms by Josie. Please share, like, and subscribe for future videos. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.